Member Levitt,
Here.
Member Cronk. Member Cronk, are you on the line?
No, he's not.
Member Marty Johnson,
Here.
Ms. Yakobin is out today. Member Szynski,
Here.
Member Rackley,
Here.
Member Paul Johnson,
Here.
Member McIntosh,
Here.
Member O'Carroll, Member Scher,
Here.
Member Foley.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
Chairman Levitt, I don't know if you can hear us or not, but we cannot hear you.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Also.
Yes.
My name is Clifford Dobler, resident of Incline Village and a retired CPA. For the past decade, I've advocated for proper financial reporting by IVGID. I have served on the audit committee and written over 100 memorandums regarding improper accounting. Nearly 2 years ago, I submitted 31 memorandums to the committee, which was suppressed and or removed from the agenda. Only now is the staff ready to review them, which could impact the fiscal 2023 unaudited financial statements and may require restatement of previous reports. I urge the committee to enforce NRS 354-675 and 354-685 as IVGID is in violation of 9 of the 27 items referenced under subsection 2. Here are our 6 significant returns. The bank reconciliation for May, June, and July remain unreconciled, showing large variances. Number 2, IVGID is not adhering to section 9 of the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund contract dated 4/11/2023 regarding dedicated asset replacement reserves. Number 3, proper internal controls have not been established despite 3 years of audits identifying material weaknesses. Number 4, I reported a violation of NRS 626 on November 25th, 2021 regarding contracts for the Burnt Cedar Pool totaling $4.1 million against only $2.7 million in available resources. When pressed, outside legal representation verbally stated, NRS section 626 has never been before the courts and IVGID will try to do better next time. Number 5, approximately $1.2 million in loans from the general fund to the internal services fund for fiscal 23 and 24 violated NRS 354-8118. Which require a public meeting. These advances were incorrectly reported as loans. Number 6, my June 23rd memorandum detailing the inconsistencies in capitalizing repairs and maintenance expenses. IVGID has charged off $7.5 million in improperly capitalized expenses from 2019 to 2021, an additional $10.8 million that should have been expensed has sat in limbo. The memo is now only being reviewed by the staff. Thank you for your attention to these critical issues. However, P.S. It is my understanding that provisions required under NRS 354-624-4 for an audit and expression of opinion for fiscal 2023 have been waived off by the members of the Department of Taxation. If so, why? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have 3 extra copies of my public comments. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Abel. I'm a 17-year full-time resident of Incline Village and a 24-year property owner in Incline. I ran a small wholesale business for 30 years before retiring. I have been an observer and critique of IVGID operations for 14 years. In that time, I've seen their finances and mismanagement go from bad to worse. I should say from bad to disastrous. All of their operations, but especially their financial reporting, is a disgrace to our community and reflects poorly on IVGID and the incompetent trustees who are supposed to manage it. I have 5 examples of what I've observed in 14 years. Number 1, sending $300,000 to a Canadian pipeline inspection company where no discernible work was done. No effort was made to recover these funds. 2, a recent no-bid contract to renovate a kitchen where no kitchen appliances were included in the bid, and then a supplemental no-bid change order for $200,000 was submitted and approved to supply those appliances. Number 3, a golf course restaurant which only operates for 5 months of the year and needed a $70,000 cash infusion in the middle of the season to keep it operating. I wonder how much food and booze was going out the back door. Number 4, despite losing $1.6 million per year on golf operations, IVGID refuses to entertain the idea of bringing in a private company to operate these money-losing ventures. This, despite the fact that almost every single public entity in California and even here in Reno uses a management company to operate their golf courses. Finally, 5, the current board, ignoring the disastrous financial mess that we're in, is now entertaining the idea of spending an additional $16 million to build a new snack bar and bathrooms on the Incline Beach. This for a snack bar which grossed less than $100,000 in 2024. The list could go on, and I don't want to bore the respected members of our committee here. I could bore you with more egregious examples of fraud and mismanagement. I'm not an accountant or a finance specialist like Mr. Dobler. You've heard from Mr. Dobler, who has a lifetime of complex finance experience. In short, IVGID trustees are going to do with you what they've done with me, the community, and their critics for 14 years, and that is blow smoke up your tailpipe. I urge the committee to declare that a severe financial emergency exists within IVGID, pursuant to NRS 354-685, and place IVGID on a fiscal watch pursuant to NRS 354-675. This would be an important first step in a complex remediation program for IVGID. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Frank Wright. Hi, Kelly. I have been a resident for 47 years in Incline, and like the previous speaker, I've noticed just a disastrous situation taking place. I'm also a candidate for the board, and I'd like you to know that as a candidate for the board, I'm probably one of the most qualified candidates because I know everything about IFKID, and I can tell you right now that it's an unfair advantage for those people who have turned our golf courses into a private domain for the rich and the elite. And they use that as a methodology to get their votes so they can defeat candidates who are going to ask questions about our finances. And this has been going on for quite a while. It's actually illegal because you're using a public facility, turning it into a private domain. And then anybody who tries to run against these people to keep the gifters from getting all their things, they're ostracized in the community. It's horrible. And you have had now enough information come before you to realize that there's something wrong in River City. And the things that are wrong are financial improprieties that are taking place that are horrendous, absolutely horrendous. The previous speaker talked about the grill at the golf course where it loses $1,000 to $2,000 a day just to feed a few golfers who they have to have the place to eat after they play golf. Well, the community is paying and funding this. This is public money. Another thing is they don't assess recreation fees equally across the board. You have one parcel, and that one parcel has 65 or 75 units. 75 units, and they're charged a rec fee for each unit on one parcel. $65,000 a year is paid by those poor people who are living in those apartments. Across the street's a Hyatt Hotel. They have 420 units on one parcel. They pay one parcel fee. And I've been screaming for years about this. You can't do this. This is an inappropriate way of assessing taxes or a fee. I don't know if it's a fee or a tax. They haven't identified that yet either. I can't get an answer to that question. Is this recreation fee a fee or is it a tax? It has no statutory limit. Every county and city in the county in the state of Nevada could pass a tax like this, and they could get all the money they need to operate. And when they use this fee to pay all their deficits in incline, to pay the $2 million losses at the golf course, they have a recreation fee. It's not for my recreation, it's for financial deficits. This has been going on way too long. There are 10 things that Mr. Katz has identified, and he sent you a page of his findings, and any one of those things would be reason to put him on financial watch. Any one. You got 10. As a government entity, an agency, I think as you look through this, you're going to go, wow, something is really wrong here. I got a feeling you haven't received anything from IFGID about what you've asked them for at the last couple meetings. They're coming in today naked. They don't have anything yet. Bank records haven't been reconciled. They haven't got their audit prepared for 2023. Something is wrong in the way they're doing things. This is public money. These things have to be addressed. And somebody has got to do something now, not later. And we're, as a community, the people that are here are asking you to do something that we need to have done. And that is make these people perform and do their job and make these finances become available to the public so we can see what's going on and you can see what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? What? Anyone in the South want to comment? This part of the agenda?
We don't have any public comment.
Anyone on the phone?
Anyone on the line?
If there's anybody on the Zoom who would like to #9 to raise your hand to be entered into the queue. I don't see any at this time, Chairman Levitt.
Okay, thank you.
We're unmuted. Can't hear them.
Hello?
Mr. Chairman, on the phones and video, we were unable to hear.
Oh, sorry. We're not hearing anything.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
You hear
great.
Paul?
Yep,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. My name is Michelle Yezhiski. I'm a Incline resident and also candidate for IFGID board. I wanted to just comment on some of the comments that have been made, but also share with the board that there is an inevitable new board, regardless of which candidates of the 6 candidates fill the 3 seats vacant. And at a recent forum, it was discussed and unanimously agreed to that the financial situation must be dealt with in a number 1 priority situation. Some of the comments made as though these decisions have been made in stone by the current board. While I don't agree with them, I think they're being mischaracterized. For example, the $16 million snack bar has not been approved and is not simply a snack bar. It is actually rebuilding part of the beach infrastructure. That was the same, quite honestly, that was there when I was growing up in Incline in the 70s. There are some other things, the $2,000 missing from the chateau, the golf restaurant. That has also been proven to be mischaracterized. There was budget line issues that were basically mischaracterized or misaligned. So I think, while I understand the passion of those urging for fiscal watch, I do not think with the new board, inevitable new board coming in, that would be necessary. I think these individuals, whoever they may be, ultimately need a fair shake at getting this back on track. And that starts with getting our staff rebuilt from the GM to the finance office. And that's why it has been requested to get some assistance through Washoe County for some financial assistance. Our staff, our finance office has been decimated, as well as some other departments. So I think that would be a logical and responsible first step. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Christina, is there anyone else on the line?
If there's anybody else on the Zoom who would like to give public comment, please hit *9 to raise your hand to be entered into the queue.
I don't see anyone raising their hands.
Okay, let's go on to the next.
Muted. Marvin's muted.
Consider adoption of recommendation and order. Clark County School District. Update from Clark County School District regarding its FY24 audit and any potential budget deficit and the anticipated impact of any such deficit for its 25 budget. Department's possible recommendation to place Clark County School District on fiscal watch pursuant to NRS 354.675. Any other actions deemed necessary by the committee, including without limitation, appointment of subcommittee to monitor the budget and fiscal activities of Clark County School District and make recommendations to the committee. From the department, we have Kelly Gramman, budget analyst for Clark County School District.
Go ahead.
For the record, my name is Kelly Gramman, budget analyst assigned to Clark County School District. Clark County School District has a presentation for you. And to answer any questions you might have today, we should have in attendance Diane Bartholomew, Interim Chief Financial Officer, Elvin Garcia Morales, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Brenda Larson Mitchell, the Interim Superintendent.
Okay, what in your presentation, besides discussing with us the budget and where you currently stand, could you address how your ending balance on June 30th of this year corresponded with your balance as it appeared in your audit for this year? I mean, your budget for this year. So address that. Is there a difference? Is it less or more, or where do we stand on that? Could you also address whether your revenue for the current year is changed from what you anticipated in the budget, as well as your situation with the budget regarding the deficit that we've heard about? Go ahead.
Good question.
Good morning, Chairman Levitt and members of the committee. I'm Brenda Larson Mitchell. I currently serve as the interim superintendent for the Clark County School District. With me today is our interim chief financial officer, Diane Bartholomew. Also, we have our vice president of the Clark County School District Board of School Trustees, Irene Bustamante Adams. And at this time, with your permission, Chairman Levitt, I will turn it over to Diane Bartholomew.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman Levitt and members of the committee. I am Diane Bartholomew, interim CFO for the Clark County School District. We do not have a presentation for you this morning, but I will read my statements and go from there with questions. So regarding we do appreciate the opportunity to clarify and provide an update regarding our budget and audit status. Regarding the first bullet point, update of our audit and budget, the FY24 audit The year ending June 30th audit is in final stages of testing and review. Financial management staff and the auditors are working diligently and expect that finalization and issuance will occur by the end of October to meet the statutory deadline. At this time, no formal or final conclusions have been made with respect to any deficiencies as the audit is still in the review stages. In summary, the audit is on track. All right, and then regarding your second point regarding the FY25 budget, the FY25 amended final budget is in progress and will be submitted to the Board of School Trustees on December 12th, 2024. The district's amended final budget will reflect any necessary change to the budgeted ending fund balance and other projected revenue and expenditure changes for FY25. The district anticipates no deficit being reflected in the FY25 amended final budget. And just in addition, if deemed necessary to use unassigned ending fund balance, CCSD will remain above the district regulation minimum of 4% of general fund revenue. Regarding possible recommendation for fiscal watch, having previously been on fiscal watch from 2017 to 2021 for the 3-year decline in general ending fund balance pursuant to the NRS, we know the role of this committee plays in ensuring that local governments are solvent and meeting their obligations. And according to our review of the statute, it is in our opinion that the district meets none of the A through AA conditions listed in the NRS. So we thank you for the opportunity to clear up any questions on our budget and audit and prepared to answer any additional questions.
There has been considerable press. In fact, we have been specifically asked by the governor to make a review of your situation. And well, in the press, there's been a discussion about a $20 million deficit exists in the current budget. I'm not talking about any possible amended budget. Could you address whether that situation is true? And if it is true, what caused it to be that way?
So currently, Diane Bartholomew for the record. So currently we are working through the budget process. That number is lower now. We stated to the school board on October 10th that we were approximately a 10 million deficit right now, which we would address through using unassigned ending fund balance. Sure, there was a second question. I'm sorry.
What caused the approximate?
Oh, okay. So go ahead.
Chairman Levitt, members of the committee, Brenda Larson Mitchell for the record. We experienced some unanticipated costs in litigation and also in alignment with cybersecurity.
Did you have any miscalculation or as regards to salaries? Or was that okay in the way the budget as we now have it is concerned?
So Chairman Levitt, Diane Bartholomew for the record.
If you're saying anything, we're not hearing you.
Still can't hear them.
We're not hearing anything.
Probably a good idea.
Okay. Let them know we're checking with,
IT?
yeah.
Looks like Marty's trying to text somebody. Marty, I think they're checking with IT, if you can hear us.
friends, then I can text messages too.
Oh, hi.
Just one.
Text Marty and see if he can hear us.
$300 an hour. $300 an hour. Cheap building, big, big.
Oh, here comes the IT person. Guessing.
Is that Aiden? You done?
So they can hear us, Marty says.
Okay.
Yeah, they have like.
That's what's your name? What's your name on there?
It's on the Twitter.
Oh, it is.
My name is Michael Abel.
Wow.
No, I just make them up as I go. I get on my head. If you want, I'll give them to you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Just go ahead.
Gotta love technology.
We can separate for you. Everything's trouble with the.
Yeah, would you like them? Who is this? Okay, you can have this.
Are we back?
Got it.
Very good.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Plug and play.
Yeah, right.
Audience to please be quiet.
Hey, come on.
Text you. Hold on a second. Go ahead.
725
725
287 6450.
450. Okay. Very good.
Conversation.
Appreciate it.
then.
I'll just say door 6.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Text or call me. All right.
Okay, so to continue on, Chairman Levitt and members of the committee, Diane Bartholomew for the record. So the current year budget development process did take into account the increases in teacher salary. Increases were reflected in the tentative budget, which was presented in April, and the final budget presented in May. Which were based on the following assumptions. Salary table increase by 8%, one-step movement, increase in health insurance contribution, and professional growth system and differential pay.
So you do not anticipate you have to change the salary portion of the budget, or you do for the coming amended one?
So for amended final budget, you know, there will be some additions and changes. As far as the salary piece, I don't anticipate that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Tom Sosinski for the record. I just want to clarify, so your budget that you adopted at the end of the year incorporated your final negotiations from all your bargaining units? I just want to make sure we're understanding that your amendment's not going to include any adjustments for your bargaining outcomes.
Correct, if you're comparing May through versus our December budget. Right, that's where you're going. Correct.
Are they heavy? Absorbed because of
Any other questions?
vacancies?
Let me tell you what I propose.
Okay,
I would like to appoint a subcommittee composed of 3 members of our committee, Tom Scienski, Paul Johnson, and Jim McIntosh, if they're willing to serve, to work with you and represent the committee in matters regarding your budget between now and the next meeting. The committee can also consider whether it'd be appropriate or totally inappropriate to recommend anything to do with fiscal watch. Appoint Tom as chairman of that committee. If the two of you, Paul and Jim, are willing to serve.
Mr. Chair, absolutely be willing to help out in any capacity.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, willing as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I know that all three of you have expertise in this subject matter, and we're looking forward to, at our next meeting, having a report of the final amended budget of the Clark County School District. Any other comments or questions regarding the Clark County School District?
Chairman Levitt, this is Brenda Larson Mitchell, Interim Superintendent for the Clark County School District. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and we welcome the support from the committee members that you just appointed. Very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Levitt, this is Trustee Irene Bustamante Adams. I just like to express my gratitude to the committee members and to the governor, and thank you for the technical assistance.
Okay, thank you. Unless anyone else has any other comments or questions, we're going to move on to the next agenda.
Next item, Chairman Levitt, is Northern Nye County Hospital District. Report on Northern Nye County Hospital District regarding a loan agreement entered into without statutory authority pursuant to NRS 450.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Lynn Lukacs, budget analyst assigned to Northern Nye County Hospital District. Northern Nye County Hospital District entered into a loan grant agreement for the delivery of healthcare services with the district. The effective date of the agreement was December 21st of 2022 for a term of 5 years with 2 automatic 5-year renewals. The district will provide financial support to the healthcare provider in the form of a line of credit of $500,000 for each year of the agreement. The contractor will have no obligation to repay the outstanding balance of any draws as long as the contractor continues providing medical services as required by the agreement. In the event the agreement terminates for any reason or expires, the full amount outstanding at that time shall become payable. The agreement indicates the district will forgive 25% of the outstanding balance of draws at the commencement of each year, so long as a contractor is not in default of the agreement. NRS 450 provides no authorization for a hospital district to loan money to a vendor. There is no documentation indicating approval of the agreement by legal counsel. The department was not made aware of this agreement until receiving the fiscal year 2023 audit on July 25th of 2024, which was after 4 extensions. Available today to answer any questions are Nye County's Comptroller Helen Bai, District Attorney Brian Kunze, and Independent Auditor Dan MacArthur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd like to hear from the representatives from the Nye County Hospital District. I'd like to hear what you plan to do regarding this contract that seems to be illegal.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Brian Kunze. I'm the Nye County District Attorney. Again, we appreciate the committee looking at this, and we certainly would appreciate any assistance that we can get. What I will report to you is that this finding is actually a result of my investigation and my reporting. This was something I inherited when I came into office as the district attorney. Fortunately, it was a rather bad situation in that my predecessor really didn't feel like he had any legal obligation to provide any legal support outside the county itself. I have a very different view, and in fact, the NRS actually is one of my duties as district attorney is to provide legal opinions to any outside, any district office. And so I do believe this is part of Nye County's responsibility, and I've been very proactive. This came to my attention. I saw the problems with the agreement, and I don't disagree. These agreements are completely illegal. There is no basis for them. We recognize that the district does not have the legal authority to loan money, and particularly an agreement that really didn't even, it was providing for forgiveness of the loans. The loans would never even be repaid. That this really was more of a form of compensation. So those agreements have been repudiated. We are not following those agreements. We are working on an interim basis with the medical provider for the clinic to keep operating on a month-to-month basis until we can work out final agreements. We are actually in the process now of finalizing new agreements. The district has actually been very proactive, and they now have a dental services in the clinic. We're actually negotiating and potentially trying to bring in a physical therapist to share space in the clinic. So again, this is something that we are currently very involved in. We are getting the final stages done on the final agreement that will address all of the legal issues that were referenced in the independent auditor's report, which again I emphasize really came through my conclusions and my investigation and efforts to try to fix this problem. And I don't know if there's any other questions, beyond that.
So if I don't understand correctly, then the contract is currently null and void, and we don't need to have any more concern about the entity participating in an illegal contract. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And you have my assurance that that's not going to happen. And again, it's I just want to emphasize that how active I've been with the district. And this is not even something I've handed off. This is something that's been personally my project, and something I will continue to make sure that we get everything in place the way it should be.
Okay. Any comments or questions by members of the committee? Thank you. Appreciate your appearing here today. And it sounds like to me that we have this matter resolved.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate this, and like I said, we do take these things very seriously, and it's interesting. We really have a fairly, I think, one of the strongest teams we've ever had here in Nye County. Ms. Bay is a phenomenal comptroller, has been excellent to work with, and I've had a long relationship working with Mr. MacArthur, and I think together we can make sure that this does stay on track.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on to the next item on the agenda.
Chairman. Incline Village GID, report from Incline Village GID regarding the management plan to address recent forensic audit findings. Report regarding the status of the anticipated timely filing of the upcoming 23-24 audit to the Department of Taxation. Report regarding bank reconciliations. Discussion regarding potential over expenditures and department's possible recommendation to place Incline Village GID on fiscal watch pursuant to NRS 354-675. Today from the department, we have Kelly Graman, budget analyst for Incline Village.
For the record, my name is Kelly Graman, budget analyst assigned to Incline Village GID. Incline Village has experienced high turnover, a new ERP system, a failed transition to Tyler, and a forensic due diligence audit. They have a denied augmentation on January 31st, 2024. The IVGID board approved an augmentation without a revenue source. Due to the problems with the augmentation, I sent to both Bobby McGee and to Adam Cripps the augmentation guidelines and references. They wanted to use the ending fund balance, which is not an available resource according to NAC 354.410. In their paperwork, the ending fund balance was referred to as the general fund reserves. This is not a reserve. The only way ending fund balance can be used is for capital improvements. I tried working with Adam Cripps until July to fix the augmentation. During this time, both the general manager, Bobby McGee, and the assistant director of finance, Adam Cripps, resigned. Chelsea and Vicky took over working on the augmentation. After several conversations, the department decided to deny the augmentation. I anticipate this could likely cause an over expenditure in the budget for FY24. We sent a letter on 9/19/2024 to deny the augmentation. The letter and the augmentation are part of the exhibits in your package. The F-23 audit, we received the audit on March 29th, 2024, and we sent them a letter for a corrective action for their audit. The audit was a no opinion audit, which did not meet the provisions required in NRS 354.6244. This is mainly due to the forensic due diligence audit. And the forensic due diligence audit found a total of 41 weaknesses of internal controls, where 16 were high risk, 12 were moderate risk, and 13 low risk. And my understanding that the auditors from Davis Farr are going to spend an additional 70 hours for additional testing in response to the issues identified in the due diligence review. And we've been working with Susan Griffith and Karen Crocker and Vicki Nye and almost weekly to help them figure out what's going on and what they need to do. And in your package also are the bank statements and the reconciliations for May, June, and July promised at the last CLDF meeting. And to answer any questions you might have today, we have on Zoom or possibly in person, Susan Griffith, the Interim Director of Finance, Karen Crocker, Interim General Manager, Vicki Nye, Controller, Jennifer Farr, the Auditor, and I think it is not Sarah Schmitz, it's Turlock from the board.
Board treasurer.
Yes.
Okay, if any of the people from Pine Village come on up to the table.
I'm gonna grab another chair.
Here, you can read this.
Sorry, I'm down on my feet.
Okay, there's a number of items here that we would like to address, and then let me tell you what I would like to do at the end of this. I would like to appoint a subcommittee of our committee that can spend more time, look at your situation more closely. And let me just mention who I would like to appoint and see if they're willing to. Gina Rackley, Mr. Scher, Mr. Foley. All right, first of all, Gina, would you be willing to serve as chairman of that committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would be honored to.
Okay, thank you. And the other two, are you willing to serve?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
we have a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and, first of all, we'll talk about what you're doing to currently address the findings of the forensic audit.
Good morning. My name is Karen Crocker. I am the interim general manager for the district. And first, I'd like to say I appreciate Kelly and Kelly helping us and working through this. Regarding the forensic audit, we have asked Reuben Brown for their work papers. Staff has with no prevail. This week, we did get our legal counsel involved. They had sent a letter to Reuben Brown regarding the work papers and any data that they have. And the purpose for staff is to, regarding the work papers, is so that staff can really get a better understanding of what their findings were. Going through those 41 observations, we did have some questions regarding those. And so that is the purpose of us getting those work papers. We also are, as Kelly Graham mentioned, we are having our auditor look at our high risk items as part of our audit. regarding any recommendations and any findings that they may have regarding the Reuben Brown forensic report. We've also started at a staff level regarding implementing items such as our Tyler Muni system. That has not been working well for the past 18 months, and that's been a real hurdle for our financials. Therefore, on October 9th, the Board of Trustees approved an addendum to the current contract of Tyler Muni system, our financial system. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to be implementing that ASAP regarding them coming out and fixing our integration, any modules that aren't working, and so forth. We've also implemented one of the, I don't have the number on me, one of the observations is the logins with staff. So we do have different venues, as you may know, our rec center, golf, chateau, our grill. And so our IT department has implemented logins for all of our staff because that was one of the deficiencies in our Reuben Brown report. We've done that. Tyler, we've also been, we do have a current procurement card policy that we are reviewing to update. And in the meantime, we've implemented very limited use of the procurement cards, as well as internal controls, whereas each department head needs to sign off on that purchase. And then our finance department will be doing random checks regarding internal control on that. So we've also revised our uniform policy. That was another item that was on our observation list that will be going to the board for approval. So we do have a draft on that. So again, staff has been working on some of these items. Our top items, again, was the Tyler system, as well as looking at our financials as well. I do want to share that I've been in municipal government for over 25 years. And I'm also a resident of IVGID, so I'm very committed to fix whatever has been happening within the last couple of years. So I'm very dedicated and committed to this, as our residents have expressed as well. So thank you very much.
Where do we stand regarding the current audit?
I'll let
We've decided to each tackle different items.
Yeah.
Good morning, Chair Levitt and committee. My name is Susan Griffith. I'm serving currently as the interim Director of Finance for the Incline Village General Improvement District. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I've recently been serving in this role, and from my experience to date, the Incline Village General Improvement District has had a very knowledgeable, dedicated staff that has been invaluable to the intense learning curve that we've been experiencing to get up to speed on the IVGID functions and the issues. I'm going to report to you on the audit, the bank reconciliations, and the over expenditure concerns. And I believe our auditor, Jennifer Farr, is also available on Zoom. So any questions specific to that she can address as well. We are currently in the process of the fiscal 24 audit. I presented to our board, our audit committee on October 15th, the fiscal 24 audit schedule to complete the work and get direction on scheduling the committee and board of trustees meetings to receive the audit report from the VISFAR, who are our auditors, to be in compliance with NRS 354.624. Staff has prioritized the fiscal 24 audit work as the #1 priority and does not anticipate an extension at this time. We are currently in the midst of work with the auditors. This is our remote week of the fiscal 24 audit. Next week, they will have people on site to complete audit work, as well as procedures and follow-up analysis the first 2 weeks of November. I would pause for your direction if you want me to continue on the items or if you wanted to speak with our auditor.
Let's speak with the auditor just for a minute.
Jennifer Farr, could you make sure she's available? Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Could you give us an update on where you stand on the current audit for the improvement district?
Absolutely. And for the record, my name is Jennifer Farr. I'm the audit partner responsible for the audit of Incline Village for the year ended June 30, 2024. And as mentioned, we got started on the audit this week, which was on time, or what we had planned to do. And most of the items that we requested were provided to us and available on time. So that's great. And we will be on site next week performing audit field work. If we find that there are minimal errors in the accounting records as we do our audit, and if the documentation continues to be provided to us on time, then we're looking at having a draft report available in early December, and then it'll have to go through a review process. So it's kind of our best case scenario timeline on what we think will happen with the audit this year. But so far, everything's looking good.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions for members of the committee at this point?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Tom.
Tom Szynski for the record. I'm just curious with the forensic audit. I know you've asked for the work papers, but what is your plan in terms of addressing the report itself?
Chair and committee, Ray Tulloch, Treasurer and Chair of the Audit Committee. I think you've all read the Reuben Brown audit report. It's pretty self-explanatory. The request for work papers actually came in response to a public records request from the community. The board, both the board and the audit committee, staff have brought to them saying, yes, we've closed these issues, but without supporting evidence, without supporting procedures and documentation. Both the board and the audit committee have instructed staff that to bring forward make sure the procedures that have been put in place are sufficient to actually make sure these things are not repeated. As was mentioned, we've as audit committee chair, as part of the engagement letter, we've also authorised an additional 70 hours of work for Davis Farr to make sure that we are addressing these issues. None of these issues were really about complex financial fraud accounting. There were a large proportion of them were a complete lack of internal controls, a failure by staff to observe existing procedures. It's not very few of these were accounting rocket science in terms of that. And the board has been very clear about asking us to make sure that we are enforcing these procedures. We are putting proper procedures in place to make sure these things are followed. Because yes, the current board has been, every time we address some of these financial issues, we seem to turn over yet another stone. None of these things are things that have just happened overnight. This, we've gone through a lot of things. We've had a big turnover of staff departing as we start. We've turned over rocks. We've found issues that have been going back many years. We're trying to address these. We're also now in a situation where most of our infrastructure, most of our investments are getting to the stage where they require significant replacement. We've lived for years from over collection of facility fees that's not been necessarily been used for the items it's been collected for, which has hidden a multitude of practices going there. We've heard from people, well, yes, you're losing staff. Our salaries and benefits budget has increased over 50% in this year's budget from 2022. We're trying to correct these issues. There's significant pushback by sectors of the community that have benefited from previous policies. This board is trying very hard to correct things and secure the financial position. We are currently recruiting. We're interviewing for a new general manager next week. We're recruiting for a new director of finance as well. As you've heard, the previous incumbents left suddenly and left us there. I'm embarrassed because I came before this committee in August and assured them that we would produce things, and then our then general manager suddenly resigned suddenly and left us without that. We are working very hard. Staff are currently working very hard on these things as well. But we're working hard to overcome years of issues. This is not just something that's happened overnight. We're working and we're putting every effort into it. With regard to the budget augmentation issue, the board was assured by the then general manager that yes, this was the process to follow. So with the board was as surprised as anyone to find out that the procedure we'd followed was wrong. The board was also told that we had executed a loan with our internal services department to cover a 600,000 loss in the past year. There was no loan. This loan only appeared in the financial statement as a balance sheet item. There was no formal loan made or anything there. So the general fund was depleted by over 600,000 with regard to that. We've also had another 300,000 loss in our internal services unit as well. All that effectively then has to come out of the general fund. We're working in ways of actually addressing that, but obviously it can't continue. You've heard strong comments from members of the community about what's happening. When you lose $400,000 a year just at the food and beverage operation at the golf course, obviously it's not a situation that can keep continuing. So I appreciate, Mr. Chair, your offer to bring in a subcommittee to help us through this. This board has been working very hard. There has been opposition from sectors of the community. I can't comment. There's obviously an election going on, so different candidates are running on different platforms. The key thing for me as treasurer is to make sure that we get us back on a firm financial footing. IFGID faces a significant level of investment going to be required in coming years to replace facilities that are in most cases 35, 40 years old. That's going to take a significant amount of money. It may require bonding at some stage, but obviously that would require getting our finances in order. To me, this is the highest priority. It's extremely frustrating to see what's happened when we see the Reuben Brown report that addresses 41 potential issues of fraud, which many people have talked about before. It is something we take very, very seriously, and it has got to be a first order of business. Thank you.
Thank you. You had a request for an augmentation that was not approved.
Correct.
Do we anticipate that's going to result in a over expenditure of a function when we get the the audit?
Susan Griffith, Interim Director of Finance. I do anticipate the fund balance will show that there was an over expenditure of approximately 2 million. I don't want to speak to specific numbers till we've completed the fiscal 24 audit to get a better handle on some of the pieces of the district's finances. We are also working on the fiscal 25 budget monitoring and anticipate that the fiscal 25 budget will actually come under budget of approximately 300,000.
I want to emphasize, and I think the statute does this, the seriousness of over expenditure. You know, if you look at 354-626, it provides remedies even as much as someone losing a position if they prove an expenditure that exceeds the budgeted amount. And so I want to be clear, it's a very serious matter if you're going to show that. Now, of course, the year's over now. You know, we cannot go back and change things. But I think looking for the future, we've got to be certain that when contracts are approved or when obligations are approved, they are not in an amount that would exceed the budgetary authorization. Now, the subcommittee that we've just appointed, one of the duties I'm going to ask the subcommittee to do is to make a recommendation as to whether you should be placed on fiscal watch, or whether we need to take some action other than that, or whether they feel like that you're making efforts to resolve the situation. And that's why, that's clear. Is that what the intent is going to be? So their intent is to not only to assist you, but to also recommendation as to what we need to do subsequent to that. Okay? I want to be fairly clear, and I think I've been fairly clear. Okay? Any questions or comments by the committee?
Josh Foley, just wanted to comment when you brought up that there was a request for the auditor's work papers. My understanding, and I was an auditor and prior to my current position, is that those are the property of the accounting firm. They are not public records and they are not required to be disclosed or provided, just the opinions that they provide to you. Or if you provided them paperwork that they needed, they can return that upon request if needed. But the work papers themselves, I think that request is possibly something you should get some better legal opinion on.
Thank you.
If I may respond to that, I think our audit chair, Ray Tullett, could speak to that. It is actually specifically in the contract, but I'll let Ray.
Yeah, I think that's correct. It is part of the contract. But in most of this, as I said earlier, most of this is not detailed forensic accounting. Most of this was looking at the actions. Most of this was based on the documentation provided by IVGID. That's why I'm not aware of significant work papers from the auditors. Having overseen the later stages of it, there was no work. There was very few electronic work papers I think provided. Most of it was the documentation. Our forensic auditors had the same problem as Davis Farr had with last year's audit: inability to get information. And as somebody that runs a business that actually does management audits and things, this forensic audit was in many respects not dissimilar to a management audit. A lot of it is actually examining the documentation, examining the processes, examining the outcomes, and providing commentary on that. So yeah, I don't expect we shall see hundreds of there. I've seen emails from members of the community accusing me of hiding the work papers. I can make that assurance to the committee. Is not. I received no electronic work papers during the process. It is. I share the concerns, but I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chair, for your proposal. I think it's an excellent proposal. We welcome the help. I can say I can't speak for the rest of my board colleagues. I know I can speak on my own behalf. I welcome this. I think we have years of issues to remedy, and I appreciate the support.
Kelly.
Thank you. For the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor of Local Government Finance. My question for Mr. Turlock is, because of the denial of the augmentation, and I realized we had prior staff was working with, it took over 6 months to try and help them understand what we needed in order to approve that augmentation, and then at the end ultimately had to deny it. I put a lot of that responsibility back on the board because the board did approve some of these expenditures, not understanding that you didn't have available resources. Per NAC, you do have to have funds. If you didn't budget for it, you can't just say we're going to go and spend it without having those available resources. It will be an unauthorized expenditure, and they were significant. One of the largest ones, I think, budget analyst Kelly Grauman mentioned, was the fact that the due diligence audit. I know because we were part of those communications that the cost of that contract went back and forth and then went well over what they thought it would be, and then that was approved. But I got the sense that the board of directors thought they had this checkbook they could go and use. That wasn't the case. And And that just because you have an ending fund balance, that ending fund balance is not part of available resources for such augmentations. But I want to get some confidence from you that the board now understands that, because we can't be having additional expenditures approved. And if they're thinking they want those kind of expenditures, audits, or any other remedies, those have to be approved during the budget process.
Thank you, Ms. Langley. Yes, totally agree. I think I'd point out the board of trustees are limited under GID regulations what they can do. The board of directors previously back in 1985, I believe it was, ceded all responsibility for executive and administrative features to staff. The board's only executive authority is over the general manager. When the board was presented with these details by the then Director of Finance, Bobby McGee, who subsequently became General Manager for a short period of time, we were assured by Mr. McGee and we were assured by our legal advisors that what was happening was correct. The board is not a full-time board, but it's not like the City of Reno or something where you have a full-time mayor and various different things like that. We're very part-time members. It's something for consideration. Is IVGID even too big to operate under a GID structure now when we see things like this happening? But yes, the board worked on the best advice given from staff and from our legal counsel. We are very much aware now of the situation surrounding that. We've asked through the general manager to address how we can actually reduce the cost in the general fund to start covering some of these things now to make sure they're. As a point, we did approve this year's budget on that basis, but yes, it's the board can only go by the advice, the best advice that's provided.
Another thing, though, I agree partly. But when you have an item that you have not had in the budget that's several $100,000, and you have a contract come before you, good sense says, this is not budgeted, and the board needs to take some responsibility for that. This is not difficult science.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. The board was advised that we'd made savings elsewhere because we'd removed positions with positions unfilled elsewhere, and that the money was being moved from there to cover the costs of it. The original budgeted cost for the due diligence audit actually came in at the same as it was originally approved. It went through some processes of being reduced, but then it came back in at the same. The board, as a Scotsman, I'm very, very, very much aware of tight financial management, and I've always run my businesses that way. But yes, we were assured that the money was there because it was coming from unfilled positions.
Follow-up question, again, for the record, Kelly Langley. The 70 hours additional that you've approved for the audit, is that available funds in the budget? And if so, is it in the audit portion, or are you having to take funds from another section for that? Is that going to require an augmentation?
Susan Griffith, Interim Director of Finance. Thank you for the question, Ms. Langley. GM Crocker and I reviewed the general fund budget yesterday in detail, and we're going to be continuing to use some of the professional services monies specifically to cover the extra cost of the audit instead of doing a study that was budgeted for fiscal 25. And we're going to have the line items typed up and then present that to the board that she's approved the allocation of that budget item to cover the additional expenditure for the audit and for
those 70 hours, are you going to be having to delay replacement of some of your personnel? Because I think that's a big issue is you have a very high vacancy rate right now with some of your personnel. And I know in conversation you've said you're working very hard to fill those by the end of the month, first part of November. Are there positions you're not going to fill so that you can use that vacancy money for some of these other things?
No, absolutely not. We are not taking any salary savings to cover the audit. It's specifically a study that the former director of finance wanted to have done that does not need to be done this fiscal year. And that's the consultant money that will go towards the audit. Excuse me, we did actually budget around 61,000 for the audit for revising the audit engagement to increase it to cover the 70 hours. So it was actually a lesser increase than I thought it was at the time that we spoke.
And will the 24 audit come in with an opinion?
We're planning. Yeah, we are
That's a
working.
question from Ms. Farr.
Yes, she did say if we do everything we're supposed to do and give them the documents that we're supposed to give them and the review findings, that we are in compliance and practicing proper accounting and policy, financial matters, that is possible to get an opinion this year. And very possible that it will be one that will meet the compliance of 354.
Thank you.
Yeah. Josh Foley, I had one more question. I noticed the bank recs starting in July, the ones that were provided to us weren't actually reconciled. Has that been corrected?
Thank you for the question. If I may provide these to you, they are updated May 2024 and June 2024 reconciliations. And, oh, I'm so sorry. Did you get this? Yes. As the committee is aware, bank reconciliations has been a serious issue for Incline Village General Improvement District. And during the height of the staff resignations and unfilled positions, we did contract with consultants and hired some extra help to catch up on the bank reconciliations. These reconciliations have been performed manually, a time-consuming process of examining and reconciling a database of transactions. The process of examining and identifying unposted banking activities are now performed within the finance department on a regular schedule. The Tyler report used as part of completing the bank reconciliations contains the GL balance used to match the adjusted bank balance. So what you have before you is an updated report. The September 30th submittal in your board packets contains incomplete work as there were more entries made as part of our fiscal 24 reconciliation processes, reconciling an additional 1.2 million for June and 31,000 for May. As we are currently still understaffed in finance and prioritizing the 2024 audit, the fiscal 25 transaction entries are behind schedule. Staff anticipates the fiscal 25 journaling for July and August will be caught up post-audit about the end of November. As GM Crocker stated previously, the Tyler addendum that the board approved on October 9th will resolve many issues, including bank reconciliations. The model that provides the bank reconciliation functionality was never implemented by prior staff. Thank you, Ms. Langley, for passing those out. You'll see those updated summary reconciliations.
So is there an additional by hand reconciliation? Because neither of these are balanced either.
Right. This is as much time as we have devoted to just try and work down the unexplained variances, and we just need to take more time to look at the thousands of journal entry activities to kind of ferret out what got booked incorrectly or what got missed in the course of the serious understaffing activities and things not getting all the bookings taken care of during the fiscal year.
Don't those have to be done in order to complete the audit? So when you're saying November, after November, it's like you have to have these done. This is one of the first things your auditor is going to be requesting. So this can't wait until the end of November to be.
Oh, I'm sorry if I misspoke. I was speaking about So the July summary that we provided.
The May and June are not
Fiscal.
balanced either, so.
That is correct.
So that has to be resolved in order to give your work papers or the necessary information to your auditors.
We have provided to the amount of unreconciled balance that we were able to complete at the point of the fiscal 24 audit. Materials needed to be submitted, so we haven't gotten it down further. Again, as it being a manual process with thousands of journal line items to review, examine, sort, pivot, et cetera. We are trying to move along with the understaffing situation to accomplish it to the degree possible with the time allowed. And we did provide to the auditors our best efforts on the on the June. And then July, which we provided, we have not finished all of our booking of July to be able to give the committee an updated July reconciliation at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. I'm following up on Ms. Griffith's point. When the Tyler implementation was done previously, it was done in a, shall we say, haphazard form. Somebody that's implemented ERP systems the way it was done, trying to use existing staff who didn't even know this system to put a new system in at the same time as doing a regular job. It's rule number one in the system integrator's playbook, how not to do it. We've as is mentioned, we've authorised additional funds to try and make sure that we get Tyler up and running. We'd also reached out to Washoe County for assistance in finance. We're making every effort in our capability to look for extra staff. Unfortunately, some of this goes back several years where the audit committee raised a number of issues, and we're told everything was, the feedback from finance staff was that they didn't require additional staff. We found out probably early last year how understaffed we actually were in finance, and we weren't doing bank reconciliations for over 12 months at a time, which makes it very difficult. I take your point, Mr. Chair. The board does carry some responsibility for that, but the board still has to go on the advice it's given. The board is in a difficult position. They get accused of micromanaging if they start asking some questions, but the board still has the fiduciary duty to make sure things have been done properly. We're trying our very best to walk that fine line. I'm embarrassed to appear here and say some of these things, but I think we need to make these statements. We need to get our finances in order. I can't change the past. I can only try and change things moving forward.
Anyway, I think it goes without saying, we expect now that everyone will do everything they can do, no matter what it takes, to get this audit done and provide the materials so they can actually issue an opinion in the audit and get these matters resolved. I think it's clear. I think when the subcommittee wants to work with you, I want you to be accommodating to them, provide them what they need, and do all of these things so that we can work this out. We would like to get this resolved. Let me just make a comment that's in ways unrelated to this, but relates to it. I've been a member of this committee now almost 50 years. I have never seen a local government have as many problems over as many years with as many disagreements between people that live in the community. It seems like we have one group that comes in power, and then the next group comes in power, and they fight with each other. And it just happens on a forever basis. I can go back to years and years and years, and it's been the same story. It's not always the same group. It's switched power between the groups, yet the community seems like they cannot agree among, first of all, what the entity should be doing. But anyway, that's history. But right now, we want to get this resolved as to this financial. I think I've been pretty clear, haven't I, is what I want?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that. And I can assure you from the board's perspective, we will provide every support we can. It's along with the audit and correcting the forensic audit issues. These are our top priorities. We realize the situation we're in because we are going to require a lot of investment in future years to replace facilities that are running towards the end of their life. So without getting our financials in order, there's absolutely no way we can proceed.
Let me just make a suggestion. Whenever you have an item come to the board for approval of a contract that's not included in the budget that you have approved, you need at that moment in time to resolve that situation before you approve the contract, not 6 months or a year or whatever afterwards. That needs to be done at the time you do it, not later on. And if you do that, we're not going to have this situation right now with this possible over expenditure, which is an illegal situation of expenditure of monies. Okay?
Noted. Thank you.
I don't know how I could be any more direct. Do we have any comments by other members of the committee?
Mr. Chair, Jeffrey Chair.
Yes.
I just have a question regarding the amount of turnover that we've seen lately. Are the two people, they said that they're doing interviews next week, and I apologize because we're seeing you from behind. The people who are doing the presentation, are they in on those interviews? Are they interviewing for the position, or will this be a turnover for our next meeting that someone else may be there?
I can speak. This is Karen Crocker, interim general manager, and I have applied for the position for permanent general manager. I started with the district in July as their Parks and Recreation director, and now I'm the interim. So yes, I am planning, I'm interviewing. Our interviews are on October 30th.
I think the question was the interviews will be carried out by the Board of Trustees for the general manager position, and there will also be a board representative on the interview panel for the director of finance when that position is filled.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Chairman, will we require a resolution for the subcommittees, or does that not require us?
We've had subcommittees in the past where we just appointed. I mean, I'll just ask the members of the committee, do any of you have any objections to the subcommittees that I have requested and appointed? If you do, mention that now. Okay. Let's continue on.
Thank you to the committee. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you to the CLGS staff. You've been very helpful in understanding issues and helping us get things more clear so we can make things, correct things.
The next item, 4, briefing between the Committee on Local Government Finance and Local Government Finance staff. I have nothing to report from the department.
Okay. Review and approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes. This is Tom Sosinski.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that, Josh Foley.
Do we have a second? Any discussion about the minutes? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Number 6, for possible action, review schedule date and review agenda topics for the next meeting. I'm thinking probably a meeting in January.
January, we'll have Clark County School District's audit. We'll also have Incline Village audit for 24. They have stated they will be on time, so we should be able to have both of those at your January meeting. And subcommittees hopefully be able to come back with some recommendations.
And by then we'll be starting to get a feel about how other entities around the state of where they stand on audits and whether we're going to have a lot of them that are not.
So it's a lot of responsibility on those subcommittees. But I think January is probably good. December, I don't see there being much time to be able to come back.
No, I don't think December.
In December, so.
Maybe towards the end of January.
Okay.
Does that sound all right with everyone? meeting towards the end of January and we can contact you to set a date.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hey, it's Marty. And one of the things, and I guess we can take it for what it's worth, but listening to the discussion on Nykent Hospital District, listening to the discussion on Incline, other things that we have had come before us, other things that, we've seen over the years, it seems like we keep having problems that are easily avoidable, but people don't know or understand. And, maybe they just don't care. I don't know. But I guess I'm wondering if we should have an agenda item to discuss how we can perhaps better get the word out, better train people so that we don't have, these augmentations happening that aren't legal, that we have loans being approved that aren't legal. I don't know. It just seems to be frustrating. I haven't been on the committee nearly as long as you have, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm the second longest tenured member now at this point. But it seems like we continually see things like this come up. And there's got to be something, we used to have the GFOA conferences every January. That's gone by the wayside. There's got to be a way that we can help get the word out that some of these things need to be addressed. And I'm wondering if we could do that as an agenda topic at the next meeting.
I think that's a good idea, Marty. Let's add that on the agenda too.
Okay.
Thank you.
The department currently does, Marty, we do budget training now, which we've only done the last 2 years. But in that, we allow the finance expertise of the various local governments. We basically do a page turn, walk through the budget, training them on that. And I think we've seen some excellent results from that. So possibly to your point, maybe we need to do an augmentation training. Unfortunately, with the entities that we seem to be addressing from the Committee of Local Government Finance, they've had significant staff turnover. So it may or may not address that. But I think as far as the augmentation, we could have training and help them understand the statutes in the NAC, review our packages that we provide the augmentation package through the state website and review those instructions to make very clear some of the simple errors that we've seen, what are available resources, and that the ending fund balance is not. I think even in statute, it makes it very clear that the ending fund balance is not considered an available resource. Entities, they tend to think that they can reserve or that they've set aside, but each year that budget, you start fresh. If you didn't spend it last year, then hopefully you have it coming forward in the beginning fund balance for that augmentation. But if not, you only can augment what you have. And yet I'm amazed at the number of augmentations that go back. So maybe we can review the training material and possibly do a class on it.
Kelly, if I could, sorry.
I was just gonna maybe supplement by saying, in addition to the finance folks, one of the things we do at the School Boards Association is do some training for board members so they know what to look for as well.
And I think that would be excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it's Jeff. If I may ask, Kelly, if either you could send me a copy of what you are using for this training material, or if you could bring it to the January meeting so we can see what kind of material that you're providing to the jurisdictions.
Yes, for the record, Kelly Langley. We will put those packages together and make sure that they're in the board presentation. And if there's comments, we welcome any changes, additions, corrections, revisions.
Okay, anything else? Let me just say I appreciate all of your contributions. It's a privilege for me, at least, working with the members of our current board committee. You all have expertise and you all have real or benefit to the committee and to the state from your service?
Do you have closing public comment?
We will get to that.
Okay. I didn't see it on the agenda.
It's on
It's on the agenda.
item 7.
Any other comments now from the committee members before we go to public comment? Okay, we now go to public comment. Come on.
Being that Cliff Dobler, 995 Fairway, Incline Village, being that for a decade now I've been involved in these financial rigmaroles at IVGID, I would like to think that some clarification has to do with the available resources and a fund balance. Now, I can't blame the board for asking for an augmentation because they believe there was adequate funds, beginning balances, which there was, but statute says you can't use them as available resources. It seems to me we ought to have a reason why, because otherwise, how do you ever unlock that money if you need it? And in this particular case, the fund balance was far in excess of the minimum required by law. That's number one. Number two, I don't know if the board was ever aware that if you had a capital budget and you didn't encumber the budget, then it would go by the wayside and lapse. That the only way you could carry something over was if you had an encumbrance that was not yet spent, then it had to be carried over until the next year. So what IVGID was doing was trying to get as much money as they could get out of this out of the people, and building up this massive fund balance and claiming that they had all these projects that they were going to do that they never did. And then that gave them the ability to have a slush fund. In other words, well, we might want to do this or we might want to do that. And as the chairman has said here, it seems like it's a power shift every 2 years where everybody has, well, let me get my hand in the cookie jar. And I would think that that should be maybe explored a little bit, that everybody's concerned. Now, the thing is, you can't blame the board a lot because you have a staff and you're supposed to have a lawyer that is aware of these statutes that can disclose that, well, you can do this, you can't do that. But when you bring them in from California, that has a whole different set of statutes, know very little about Nevada statutes, it kind of puts them at a disappointment. At a very odd place.
The one that hires these people.
That is correct. So why are they hiring them from California? I don't know. But anyways, that's all I have to say is the resources, the available resources is quite bothersome to me because the money would just sit there then, and they had built up a pretty good stash. And now it can't, how does it get unlocked? So maybe if we could get some clarification on that, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm glad to see the committee will come on. I hope to talk to some of these fellows. I probably know more about IVGID than any other person in this room. So good luck on everything. Thank you.
First of all, I wanted to thank the members of the board for their very pointed and incisive comments. It's encouraging to me as a IVGID critic for 14 years. I guess there's about 43 GIDs in Nevada. I don't know if I'm correct on that number, but it's somewhere thereabouts. And it's no doubt that IVGID is probably the worst managed of that entire group. I mean, it's just amazing to me that a community that's got such wealth and prosperity that can be in such disastrous condition. As for staff turnover, I think a big part of it that maybe has gone unsaid here is that there's a few bad apples that work there, and people get on board, they get hired by IVGID, and after a few weeks or a few months, they say, I don't want to be any part of this bad show here. I just want to get out of here. So I think that's a big problem. Is there's a few embedded bad apples that need to be taken out of the equation. I just wanted to encourage the subcommittee to put IVGID on fiscal watch. The reason I say that is there's board members and candidates for the IVGID board right now who want to float bonds to basically provide a slush fund for doing whatever they feel needs to be done. And I would encourage the subcommittee to put IVGID on the fiscal watch to preclude the initiation of floating those bonds before the recommendations of the Reuben Brown audit are implemented and before the final audit for last year is done. And again, thank you very much for your pointed comments.
Just as a comment about your comment, the subcommittee makes recommendations to this committee. This committee makes recommendations to the executive director of the department as to whether anyone goes on fiscal watch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Frank Wright, Incline, Crystal Bay. Joshua, or Chairman or Member Foley, you made a statement about the work papers are property of the audit firm. And my question to you is, if the information that's in those work papers is not made public, will the audit committee make recommendations for civil and criminal penalties for things that they find within those work papers? And if we can't get to them, who does expose the fact that some of those things that are in there are criminal? And we have a problem with past performance of getting public comments or public papers and public records. And now I know these work papers are going to contain names and issues on especially the procurement cards and some of the expenditures that have been made by people who have worked there and have since left, but I don't think they get out of their criminal liabilities. As far as the recommendations this board has made, as far as a committee to look at what's going on here, I don't know if it's possible, but I suggest that maybe some citizens like Mr. Dobler be contacted or interviewed by this committee to get the information that he has to make their job easier. He's very knowledgeable. Mr. Katz is very knowledgeable. And you guys also got a taste of today what goes on in Incline when people come forward and want to bring these issues before people. And you have a candidate for the board, Ms. Jasetsky got up, she disparaged us all. She basically said we didn't know what we were talking about. And she does, and then she gave off some numbers that didn't make any sense. That kind of goes on constantly up there because they don't want what's happening here to happen. And I'm glad you guys are taking this upon yourselves to look at what's going on there. And I think you made the perfect statement. It's been going on an awful long time. And it's about time that something is being done. And I thank you guys for doing that. So with that said, good luck.
And having said that, we definitely do not want to get involved in the politics that exists up there. That's your problem, not ours. We're concerned about finances.
How do you do? I'm Harry Swenson. I'm a IVGID longtime resident. I'm also trying to run for the board, so I'll keep the politics aside. I want to thank the committee very much for looking into the situation there. One of the reasons, I shouldn't say this, one of the reasons I'm running is because I was a NASA employee for 32 years as an executive and a scientist. And after some of these things that have been unfolded, I'd be in Leavenworth if these things happened under my watch. So that really scares me. I see 3 candidates here that are taking it very serious, understand the seriousness of what's going on. I also know 3 other candidates, and I don't want to say this, that don't. So please be aware of, the new change that's coming over. And as it comes over, Ray has been very, one of the people that doesn't switch over. Please have them before your board in January to find out what the status is and whether the new candidate, the new board takes this as serious as you do, or my other candidates here do. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Yeah, do we have anyone online?
Anybody on the Zoom, please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone to be put in the queue.
Jeff Church here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful. My turn.
Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Jeff Church. I run a website, renotaxrevolt.com. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I want to cover a couple quick issues. I waited till the end to see. Number one, WC1 is on the Washoe County ballot for the November election. It was placed on the ballot in August by the county commission. That was after the July deadline by NRS. I find no authority for the county to place any measure on the ballot. In fact, case law and the law says, quote, therefore, the appropriate legal analysis is not whether the questioned activity is statutorily prohibited, but whether the activity is statutorily authorized. I don't see any way other than a referendum or petition to put something, a tax measure, on the ballot. In fact, the information being given out by Washoe County is contrary to the Department of Taxation letter that was submitted March 18th by Ms. Olmstead to the county, and yet they continue to give out inaccurate information. Moving to a different subject, I want to address a conflict between NRS 386, 281A, and NRS 287. And this affects school trustees statewide, CCSD, as well as potentially IBGID and any other elected officials. Essentially, when you look at their financial reporting, many of them are reporting $9,000 for CCSD in compensation. But I'm led to believe under NRS 287, they receive free health care. That's compensation. So in addition to their $750 a month, why are people not reporting compensation in excess of that $9,000 to include the value of the free health care that they get? Here's the complicating factor, be it IBGID, be it CCSD, whoever. When you vote on the budget, when you vote to improve the employee contracts for healthcare that you yourself get, I don't see any disclosures. This is statewide. I'm not picking on CCSD. How do you vote as a trustee for healthcare that you get when it has a pecuniary interest under NRS 281A? At a bare minimum, it seems it should be reported under the FDS, reported at the time of the vote, and or recusal. But if everybody gets it and everybody recuses themselves, how do you vote on it? So I'm not smart enough. It's way above my pay grade, but I wanted to put those issues on the record as they affect taxation or anybody else that's listening. This clear conflict between getting perks and benefits and not reporting them on your rather FDS financial disclosure statement with the Secretary of State or at the time of voting. And once again, I ask you to look into the authority, because we don't want to tax, oh my God, Incline Village all over again, where we have to have a lawsuit and go back and do refunds if they impose this WC1 library tax, and the county had no authority to put it on the ballot to begin with, and they did it after the July deadline to put things on, and then they give out false information contrary to what the Department of Taxation says. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any others online? Yes,
Come on, okay.
Anyone else on the line?
there is.
Judith Miller, you're free to talk.
Thank you very much. Good morning, members of the committee. I do appreciate the work that you're doing to look after Incline Village GID. But I would like the committee to understand that the facility fee is very much a part of the problem. We believe it's been mischaracterized as a fee when it really serves the purpose of generating revenue. It's involuntary, it's a non-exchange transaction, and it has no limit. It's a tax that exceeds the limit placed by the legislature on ad valorem taxes. And since a supermajority can approve bonds Without a bond election, our board has this unlimited fee and uses it for an unlimited revenue source to justify issuance of millions of dollars of bonds. And that's how we became such a huge agency. We're fearful that unless the Department of Taxation examines this fee and determines it's a tax, and it'll be more than property tax for many of our property owners. One trustee candidate thinks a fee of over $2,300 a parcel would be an incredible value. Once the fees increased by the board, the only remedy for the taxpayer is to attempt a recall that takes months and rarely succeeds. If the board's supermajority approves a bond, a petition's the only way to stop it. During the winter months, when so few property owners are actually in town, gathering signatures would be very difficult. Please ask yourselves why no city, county, or other public agency exacts a fee of this magnitude. Maybe you can put a bill draft to place a limit on what GIDs can extract with the so-called fee. Not everyone in Incline Village has big wallets. As the department's staff has noted, IVGID's huge recreation and utility holdings have little or no actual reserves. Even an HOA has a requirement for reserves. I believe we would never have acquired so many assets if GIDs were required to have those reserves for repair and replacement, plus adequate staffing and finance, IT and internal controls and auditing. The facility fees would have been so high, there would have been a public outcry. IVGID's never had adequate staffing to provide proper financial reporting for its many business-like enterprises, nor did it have staff to monitor internal controls. Managers and the public had no idea the individual operations' performance. Presentations for golf, ski, and recreation talked about revenues, but they never compared them to expenses. Please ask staff to develop a bill draft request to modify Chapter 318. 1, to require GIDs to have reserves similar to those required for
Your time is up.
Interest community. And also please end the collection of facility fees. Clarify the definition. Thank you so much. I do appreciate all the consideration you've given.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray Tulloch, IVGID trustee. Just to clarify Mr. Church's comments, I can assure Mr. Church that as trustees at Incline Village General Improvement District, we do not get free health care. We only receive the 9,000, the standard 9,000 stipend. So I can't speak for the other agencies, but I can speak for IVGID that we don't receive free healthcare.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anybody else on the Zoom who would like to give public comment, please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone. Final call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else come before the committee? If not, we are adjourned. Good job. People sure try to get us involved with a lot of stuff, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Especially for you from the subcommittee. Thank you.